So you're ready to discover how powerful this nodal transit is going to be reshaping your life. The Virgo-Pisces nodal shift is a calling to begin moving away from outdated patterns and through a process of acceptance and surrender, actually see how your purpose begins to unfold in front of your eyes. Now, in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the meaning of the Virgo-Pisces axis through the houses. And so hopefully that will help you understand exactly what types of themes you're going to be experiencing for the next 18 months, starting from the 12th of January 2025 and ending on the 26th of July 2026. That's how long the nodes will be moving through the signs Virgo and Pisces. Now, some housekeeping that I just want to get out the way before I jump into this video. There's two things that I want to point out. One of them is that there are timestamps on this video. And also, for those of you that have something very significant, which is the nodal return. I know some people in the previous Virgo-Pisces video that I did, they wanted to know what happens if I'm having, if I have the actual South Node and North Node in the signs of Virgo, right, when I was born. Well, there's a section of this video that specifically addresses that. You can go check that out as well. Now, how do you utilize this video? Now, for some of you, you're proficient in astrology, you've been following it for some time, you'll know exactly what you need to do. You just need to go straight to the section of the video that talks about, where the South Node and North Node will be landing for you in your birth chart through transit, okay? You can go do that now. Otherwise, for those of you that are still unfamiliar with astrology, or you're just getting into it, or you're not entirely sure of the jargon, I'm going to try my best to help you navigate through this video, okay? So firstly, you do need your natal chart available and have access to it, okay? So this is what the natal chart looks like. Then what I need you to do is I want you to identify in your natal chart these two symbols, okay? This is the South Node and this is the North Node, okay? Those are the symbols that you're going to be looking out for. Number 3, I want you to also locate where this sign and this sign is, okay? So this is the Virgo sign and this is the Pisces sign, okay? Now, thirdly, and this is where it might become a little bit tricky, but I hope that you'll be able to get this, and that is that you're not looking for these signs or these nodes and these signs in your natal chart. You're actually wanting to locate where the transiting, right? The transiting nodes are. In other words, where the nodes are today, not in your natal chart. Okay, sometimes it can be a bit confusing with these types of videos. Am I learning about this in my natal chart or where the nodes are transiting? So when I say transiting, I mean where the nodes are today in the sky as opposed to where they are in your natal chart. So you're looking at where they are in the sky today. And so in your astrology program, you need to be able to have the transits activated. Okay? Once you've got that, then you'll be able to then look for where the South Node in Virgo is in your chart, or like where the Virgo sign is and where the Pisces sign is. Okay, the South Node will be in the Virgo sign, the North Node will be transiting through your Pisces section of your chart. So the South Node will be moving through the Virgo section of your chart, and the North Node will be moving through the Pisces section of your chart. Okay, so now what you do is, once you've identified where these are landing in your chart, you go to the section of this video that specifically speaks to where the North Node in Pisces is and where the South Node in Virgo is, okay? So like for me, for instance, the transiting South Node will be in my 8th house and the transiting North Node will be in my second house. So I will go to the section of the video that says North Node in Pisces in the 2nd and South Node in Virgo in the 8th, okay? So that's the pattern, yeah, that's how we're going to do this. And for those of you that want a suggestion on what type of house system I prefer and what I like to use, as an evolutionary astrologer, I use the house system Porphyry. Okay, so if you want to sort of access a little bit more clarity, a little bit more precision, that's the house system that I recommend. The Virgo-Pisces axis video I created, that was a deep dive into the essential essence of what we're going to go through. Okay, this is what the thumbnail looks like. And if you haven't watched that video, I actually highly encourage you to go watch them before this one, because once you've understood exactly the thread of the Virgo-Pisces axis, you can come back to this video and then look at how it's landing personally for you. okay? But I do recommend to watch that one so that you have a bit more context as well. Okay, so for this section of the video, I'm going to be talking about nodal returns and nodal reversals. Now, this is for those of you that were, when you were born, the North Node was in Pisces, the South Node is in Virgo, or the North Node is in Virgo and the South Node is in Pisces, okay? And I'll start off by talking about the nodal return. So firstly, a nodal return is when you've got your North Node in Pisces when you were born, and your South Node's in Virgo, okay? And a nodal return happens roughly 18 and a half years. That's how long it will take for the nodes to go around your astrology chart. And what this signifies for you is an important period of your life where there is a deep alignment energy happening, right? There is an alignment phase within your life. And this alignment phase is connected to a deeper process in which you are karmically experiencing your life, right? We all have stories. We live out stories. We live out themes in our lives, and the nodes impact and shape the way in which we experience these stories and these themes and these events and these karmic patterns within our life. So the nodal return is a culmination of the previous 18 and a half to 19 year cycle, and it's about the initiation of becoming aligned with the new cycle, right, with a new pattern. So one way you can actually take a look at this is that if you look at your life from the age of 18, 19, look what changed. If you're older and you're like past the age of 36, look what happened in your life when you were 36. That's when you will have these nodal returns, okay? Now, for the nodal return, this is a culmination of major life cycles, okay? And it's significant because this is a time where you're becoming aligned with your life's higher purpose or meaning, and you're activating, as I said, the deepest story, the deepest like purpose that you've come to live out in this lifetime. So this is a realignment and adjustment and a setting of the stage for something new, okay? Now, part of this process is also the transiting South Node moving over your South Node. And so what this is kind of like, it's a process of where where the patterns of the past might come to the surface, and you're releasing those patterns of the past, and you're also witnessing yourself in the growth that has happened in your life, right? There's kind of a nostalgic event that takes place with the transiting South Node. It's like you're seeing where you've traveled from and how much you've grown in your life, right? Well, how has your life trajectory changed? So the transiting over the South Node shows you where the past is being transformed by the choices that you've made in your life as you've grown, right? As you've lived. Now, some of the potential experiences that come along with this is that you notice your sense of purpose and a sense of recognition coming into alignment, right? And it might not necessarily be straight away there, but that's the gravity of what's happening, is that the energy of your life purpose and life direction is coming into focus. And for the next 18 months, you're going to be focusing and paying attention to this, right? You should be. And so being pulled towards these patterns within your life is going to be present. Now, of course, part of the past with the transiting South Node is you're also witnessing where you've outgrown, right? What have you outgrown? What are you ready to move beyond? And what types of patterns are holding you back? So as you step into consciously understanding and moving with your North Node and noticing your life drifting into the direction that feels right for you and starting a new cycle, you're also simultaneously looking behind in your life and saying, wow, this is where I've grown, right? This is what I've grown out of, right? This is how my life has changed. So it's a pattern of renewal and culmination and the setting up of a new direction. Now, for those of you that have got the nodal reversal, which means that when you were born, the North Node was in Pisces and the South Node was in, the North Node was in Virgo and the South Node was in Pisces. Because today, the transiting South Node is going over your natal North Node. When you were born, your North Node is in Virgo, but now the transiting South Node is coming into alignment with that North Node. And so what does this mean, right? The nodal reversal happens approximately 9.5 years, so half of the 18.5-year cycle, okay? And this is where, when you began through your nodal return, right? So 9.5 years ago, you had a nodal return and your life was set into a new direction. Well, now you've come to this halfway point where, in a sense, you're going to be evaluating the trajectory that you've gone on, right? You're evaluating the story and how things have changed within yourself. And it's this interesting experience of the past and the future coming together. And you're navigating and sifting through what parts of yourself you're actually still letting go of, and what parts of yourself you're still nurturing in this cycle that you're in, and growing, and how your life is continuously moving in a new direction. Remember, a nodal reversal is a halfway point of an initial cycle that took place 9.5 years ago, right? So you're coming to this kind of interesting crossroads and culmination, and you're continuing to keep developing and experiencing this trajectory that started 9.5 years ago. So the significance of this energy, right? It highlights the need to reconcile these opposing forces, these opposing patterns within your life, right? And it's about really trusting that this time in your life can feel a little bit confusing, because what's really going to happen here is that as the North Node transits your South Node, your natal South Node, you're going to be like, I'm looking at my life and I'm seeing that there are certain pre-existing patterns, right? Pre-existing belief systems or choices or ways of being that no longer serve my future direction, and I need to actually let go of them. So you're actually making new choices under old circumstances. Those new choices that you're making under the old circumstances transforms your future direction, right? So you're letting go of patterns and circumstances and situations in life that no longer resonate, and you're moving and you're making choices in those old patterns with new perspective, with new insight, with new understanding. And that is how this nodal reversal is actually reconstructing your future by bringing the past into it and saying, here's where you're ready to move beyond, or here's where there are certain patterns that you're ready to clear out or move beyond. So this is for the transiting South Node moving through your first house, and the transiting North Node moving through your 7th house. So for the next period of time, the focus for you is going to be about your relationship to yourself and the way that you are in relationship with others. Okay. Now, for your entire life, you've had the South Node, or you've had Virgo as your ruling your first house. So themes around your relationship to your sense of feelings of perfection, your relationship to how you feel an underlying sense of inadequacy, or where you notice that there's parts of yourself that you might carry some underlying shame. This is going to come up for you. And this is an incredibly powerful opportunity to see how these themes in the past may have stopped you from experiencing deeper connection in the context of relationships, and deeper connection in terms of what you want to show up in the world to be, and what you want to experience, and what you want to commit to, and what you want to feel competent in. So this is going to be the existing order that will come up for you, and this energy is going to bring it up, and it's going to say, hey, let's kind of look at these patterns and say, are they really still supporting you? Okay. Now, the dissolution process, this is going to be the activation of the North Node, is wanting you to kind of release these patterns of self-criticism or underlying feeling of lack, and also bring you into a deeper connection with what it is that you would like to become proficient at. And this means opening up to some of the vulnerabilities that comes along with the Virgo on the first house, and the Pisces in the 7th. Okay, where where do you have that underlying sense of wanting to become more competent? What is it that you want to do with your life that feels meaningful and aligned with a sense of service? Virgo rising loves that connection to what can I serve? What can I do for the world? And so this disillusion process wants to open you up to exploring this within inside of yourself, because the effect is actually going to be looking at the relationship patterns within yourself or within your life and saying, how do some of these relationships actually support me or not? So the chaos that potentially comes along with this reconstruction that will be taking place internally for yourself and externally is, how do you step into a process of culmination, of ending certain relationship patterns that actually are not aligned with higher meaning for you, coming into a deeper connection with, realizing how much of your autonomy you do need to be able to feel alive and ready and to take up space within your world. But with the Virgo on the first house, you might put yourself down or not want to take up a lot of space. This is a deep invitation to challenge that pre-existing way of thinking and to reorder it within yourself and to wonder a bit, asking yourself the question, what does it mean to take up more space? What does it mean to take up more space in a way that feels like I feel competent within myself? So the new order that you want to be bringing into your life is a restoration of incredible faith in yourself, a restoration in building relationship patterns that you want in your life that are meaningful and real and are supportive to yourself, and to become very clear on what types of boundaries you actually want in your life that feels like you are not being, deluded or being told one thing, but then becoming aware that it's something else. The tendency with the Pisces on the 7th is to sometimes track relationship into your life that can maybe not have the best interests at heart. So you're learning here with this new order to come into a deeper connection with the sense of the right people in your life. And the only way that happens is by starting out and checking in with what that means for you. Okay, so for you who have the South Node transiting your second house and North Node transiting your 8th house. So the transiting South Node for us is going to bring to the surface where there is initially a existing order that is holding you back. And so for you, with the South Node transiting your second house, this has a lot to do with your relationship on one level to your financial security. And when you think about financial security, you think about the way that your type of thinking around money, your type of thinking around what you consider to be valuable in the world. For us as human beings, the way that we prioritize what's important for us is coming from a deeper underlying sense of value. And beneath that is even a stronger impulse, which is an instinct to understand what our survival needs are. So with the transiting South Node moving through your second house, the pre-existing order that wants to come up to be transformed is around the themes of your relationship to your resources, to what types of values you have within your life and how those values inform the priorities, and then ultimately how those priorities give you a strong sense of stability underneath your feet. Okay? Now, again, with the Virgo energy here, you might have this underlying feeling of lack, this underlying sense that I should be doing more, or an underlying feeling of I'm not allowed to be bigger in this area of my life. So this is what's going to come up for us, right? So the dissolution process, which is the initiation of transformation for us, is going to come through the 8th house, the Scorpio archetype. And what Scorpio does is it looks down at your Taurus part of your chart and it says, I feel like there's some limiting perspectives here, or I feel like there's some security needs that are holding you back that you need to confront and let go. So the North Node transiting the 8th house will prompt an underlying need to confront where you might be a little bit complacent, or where everything has been good for now, and then you've sort of said, yeah, I don't need to pay attention to that. This North Node will prompt the question for you to confront where some of your thinking patterns have become outdated or stagnant. And this is a beautiful process. Scorpio loves to review and renew energy in Taurus, right? The second house for you. So don't be surprised that you have to look at what types of shared resources you have within your life and how those shared resources were, what types of contracts you made with people around those shared resources. And are they still beneficial to you? What types of commitments and attachments you have to the things that you have in your world, and are they working for you or not? So this will come up, and that will initiate the sort of chaos stage, which is a state of wandering where this old order needs to be flushed out in order for new space to be created and for the new version of you to come in. But in order to do that, you need to look at and confront where these things are holding you back. So the vulnerability around the attachments, to really expose them, to see, whether they're working for you or not. This is the key here, right? And you want to look at these different areas of your life, right? What type of assets you have, what types of securities you've got, what types of values you have. Do they still check out for you? Okay. So again, looking at emotional bonds, looking at where you have shared resources, and understanding the vulnerabilities that come with those attachments. The new order is a deep metamorphosis where you watch yourself decluttering from things that you've been holding on to that have now become completely sort of outdated or irrelevant. So the new order and the new renew for you is a stronger sense of restored value system, a stronger and clearer sense of priorities around what it is that you actually want to give your time and attention to within your life. And ultimately, it's a stronger connection to your instinctual survival needs, so that you looking at yourself and saying, here's where I can improve or contribute or strengthen my value that I offer to the world, I offer to whatever it is that you do with your life. The value that you contribute, the value that you bring to it, this type of pattern wants to give you a renewed sense of what that is. So if the transiting South Node is moving through your third house in Virgo, and the transiting North Node is moving through your ninth house in your astrology chart. So what is this going to mean for you? So firstly, this cycle is about the clearing out of outdated models of thinking and patterns within ourselves, and creating the opportunity for something new to emerge, a renewal. So for you, this is going to be based around the way that you actually intellectualize and put the world together based on your thoughts and belief systems. We as human beings, we need a organizing system, a intellectual organizing system that allows us to make sense of the world that we live in. And so different labels and different communication styles and different pieces of information help us create a deeper, wider version and belief system, right? A culture that we are a part of. So the existing order, which is the transiting South Node through Virgo, will bring up to the surface where you have certain thinking patterns or models of reality, right? Intellectual models of reality, the way that you have labeled things within your life, the type of language you use, all these types of themes that are associated with the way that you see the world and how you've put it together and what types of opinions you have and perspectives you have. This is going to come up for review. And as I said, the idea of the South Node is to bring into question what is needing to be released. Okay. Now, the way that this will be activated is through a dissolution process, right? This is the North Node now activating through your ninth house. And what happens here is that you'll start to encounter, whether it be through people, whether it be through a series of books, whether it be a new education, a travel, you're going to encounter a set of experiences that are going to begin to question and challenge your underlying model of reality and the way that you think. And it's going to do this through exposing you to broader perspectives, to new vistas, to new cultures, to new ways of thinking. And that dissolution process will open up the framework, and it will induce a need to wonder. So as this dissolution process works in the ninth house, it brings you back into the third house, and you enter a state of drifting where there's a temporary state of disorder, where you might come into this, oh wow, this is how I thought how the world was, or this is the intellectual understanding that I had, or this is the model that I used to make sense of it. This was my set of opinions and my thoughts and ideas. But now they're being challenged, whether through something that's positive, like new adventures and new experiences, or something that can be a little bit more challenging, like coming into contact with people that might have some more informational understanding about the subject or the circumstance or the situation than you do. And then that prompts you to then go, maybe there's more to learn. Maybe there's more to experience. Maybe there's more to broaden within my life. So the search for expanding your perspective in this wandering and drifting state is an essential process that allows you to then come into the pattern and the potential for renewal and a new order, which is ultimately the process of your worldview, your sense of perspective being opened, and the formation of new ideas and new intellectual ways of thinking and new intellectual opinions and points of views and styles of communication and ways in which you can make sense of the world using your intellectual capacity. So let's take a look at the transiting South Node in Virgo moving through your fourth house, and the transiting North Node in Pisces moving through your 10th house. The pre-existing order, right? This is representation of your fourth house, right? That's where the initial tension is going to come up for you. And that has going to be to do with understanding the original imprinting that you had from when you were growing up. Okay, that's the bottom line here. That's where it's all going to start, is the emotional way that you were shaped as a child growing up is going to deeply condition the way that you see yourself coming into the world, right? So your emotional responses to life, the values that you had, all of this will be the bottom line here. So whenever something transits your fourth house, it brings it to the surface and it asks the question, let's review some of the traditions, let's review some of the pre-existing emotional responses and parts of how you identify with yourself, right? How you see yourself. So understanding the family dynamics, this is a big thing, and emotions, right? Your emotions. Now, the way that this metamorphosis or transformation is going to take place is through the North Node in Pisces in the 10th, a dissolution, right? So the ending cycle will start to come through where you might start to question your sense of life direction. You might start to question whether or not your work that you do is actually meaningful for you. You might actually start to see that the sense of direction that you've been going in your life has been misaligned because internally within yourself, you have outgrown a part of your emotional landscape, right? You've outgrown a certain part of yourself that no longer resonates with you anymore. So there's these three main ways that you'll start to see that your life direction is ultimately going to begin to change in a direction that hopefully feels authentic and honest for you. So the dissolution is really looking at the way that your life has been defined up until now, and the change will come from either you recognizing that you've outgrown a part of yourself and now you're ready to take on new things, or the outside circumstances within your career or your life, your life decisions and choices are affected in some way, and it forces you to have to change within yourself. And thirdly, you just might look at your life and say, I'm ready for something new. This is no longer the meaning for me, right? Now, this dissolution experience is going to lead you into a state of wandering and disorder. It's in this space over here of this disorder and this wandering that is the fertility for something new to emerge, okay? So you're going to really sort of need to try as much as possible to not freak out about an underlying sense of loss of direction, or what am I going to do next with my life? If, say, for instance, your life direction was changed or initiated outside of your control. If you're somebody that has decided that your life direction needs to change because you've outgrown a part of yourself that's older, then this is a great time to start allowing yourself permission to say, hey, well, what is this new direction for me? And experiment with, different things, or expose yourself to new things that might pique an interest. Ultimately, this drifting and this chaotic space is there to, as I said, hold space for something new to renew. And this might even be your relationship to yourself regarding the way that you parent yourself, the way that you define what your life is about. The North Node transiting your 10th house is an opportunity to really get into what it is that you actually want to say, this is my life, or this is what I want to do with my life, or this is how I want to define it. All of that will be in question for you. And hopefully by the end of this transit, you'll have a stronger sense of direction around what it is that you actually want to do. And so the sort of new order that comes along with the South Node transiting your 4th house and the North Node transiting your 10th is a renewal, as I said, of creative meaning, right? A renewal of personal alignment, a renewal of an emotional connection to yourself that feels honest and real, and that it aligns with your now values. And a big part of it is also the renewal within the context of your home environment as well. So taking a look at the transiting South Node in Virgo moving through your 5th house, and the transiting North Node in Pisces moving through your 11th house. Now, this is a cycle of renewal and transformation. And it's going to start off with the exposure of the pre-existing order that's happening in your 5th house, okay? And so what you're looking at here is examining where, on one level, you've found creative recognition and purpose and a sense of fulfillment, right? Where you've been seen, where you felt that you've been seen, what you've been a part of, a community or a space that has honored your creativity, and that you've felt aligned with people who had ideals to you and similar ideals to you, that similar visions to you. This energy is going to bring up to the surface where that has become outdated, where you no longer feel that there is an underlying sense of recognition or a deep sense of creative expression within your world that has ultimately run its course, and it's time to move on, time to outgrow. Now, the way that this process of your creative expression and the way that you actualize yourself in the world changes is through the North Node in Pisces in the 11th. This dissolution process will initiate the erasing of these pre-existing structures, or you moving away from or growing out of these outdated patterns. And so for you, this is about realizing that there are certain groups, certain associations, certain groups and identities and associations that no longer resonate with you anymore. And you're learning to realize that as these parts, as these people or associations or groups of visions fade away, that's a natural process. You're clearing that out. So you're becoming aware of what types of groups no longer see you because you've changed, right? What types of visions and associations, what types of associations with people or actual companies that you might work with, that their vision has become out of alignment with what you consider to be your sense of vision or your sense of values. And so you can't actualize within that group. So you're going to become aware of where that's ending for you. And so there is a state of chaos that naturally comes out of this dissolution process, a state of wandering and disorder. And the vulnerability here is getting into a state of fear around feeling like you're never going to actualize, or you've lost your purpose, or that your creative fulfillment is, you're never going to be experienced again, or that there's an underlying sense of lack of recognition. Again, this is a natural process. You're in the middle stages of a transition. And for you, what you really want to focus on here is where the new emergent pattern is starting to form. And sometimes it will be very clear and sometimes it won't. And so here you want to try to understand that this is a process of who am I ready to, who now aligns with my ideals, who aligns with my vision, where can I, what groups can I belong to, or types of people do I resonate with that feels in alignment with where I am today. And the more that you start to recognize that within yourself and allow for the old to be cleared out, a new order of finding fulfillment becomes available. And this is again through the reconnection with groups of people and creative projects and ways of communicating and expressing yourself that make you feel seen, make you feel that you're a part of something that's bigger than you, that you can contribute to, that meets your goals and your ideas about the world, that allows you to feel that you're in a creative sense of actualization. So a new pattern of coming into where you are today and what resonates, and letting go of the old that no longer resonates and where you're no longer seen anymore. So let's take a look at the transiting South Node in Virgo moving through your 6th house, and the transiting North Node in Pisces moving through your 12th house. So this is a process in which the pre-existing order, which is representation of the South Node, needs to be exposed in order for renewal to take place. So the way that this cycle is going to manifest for you during this period of time is that the pre-existing order with the South Node of Virgo is going to say, hey, where do you have any outdated patterns and routines within your life that you're actually, that's causing you more exhaustion? Okay. Where have you become aware that as you've evolved and grown into a new version of yourself, that there are certain, patterns of self-worth, where you might look at your life and say, am I being productive in a way that feels efficient? What are the types of routines, right? What are the types of patterns and the structure, the ordering of my life, right? Where has that become now outdated or misaligned? So this is going to come to the surface for you. And so this process will be initiated through the North Node in Pisces in a dissolution experience, right? A dissolution process, which is the invitation here to initiate renewal is to start to look at where there are these rigid schedules or outdated productivity patterns, or where there are certain routines within your life that are no longer part of your future. And you're learning to let go of them. You're learning to say, wow, for a period of time, that is how I structured my life, or that's how I ordered it, or that's how I did the things. But now I'm actually stepping into something completely new. And the more that you let go of where you've noticed yourself outgrow certain routines and patterns and patterns of self-worth within yourself, right? The order of how you structured your life, right? I'm talking about how you wake up in the morning and, what types of habits you have. The more that you let go of everything that feels no longer part of your future, the more you're actually creating a necessary evolution for a new emergent pattern to come in your life. And so this dissolution process naturally allows for a state of drifting and wandering to emerge, because we've actually begun to let go and surrender and move out of a lot of things that no longer work for us. And so we're not really sure. We don't feel like we're anchored in on something. And so in this state over here, allow yourself to be okay with some of the uncertainty. Allow yourself to become okay with certain states of introspection and solitude. Right? That's one of the things about the North Node transiting the 12th house, is to actually come into a sort of acceptance and love for spending some time in state of solitude or a state of introspection as you explore the inner world. Don't be surprised during this time that you find yourself maybe becoming more aligned with some mystical experiences. Allow these patterns to come into your life, because they also influence the way that you might have a strong rigidity to having everything ordered like that as a way of protecting yourself from the potential of chaos. This North Node transiting the 12th house invites you to come into releasing some of the strongholds or patterns that you might hold in your life that feel that they're strangling you. Okay? So as you are wandering and you're meandering and you're letting go of things and you're realizing it and you're sort of breathing through states of potential anxiety, because now you're allowing life to be more of in a flowing state rather than having everything sort of ordered in a way that's meticulous, but you don't have any breathing room, you know? The more that you allow that to take place, the more that you just allow for the old to be drifting apart, you create space for potential new patterns and new order. And what's really beautiful here is that you might actually discover a incredible deep connection to life that you may have not thought about before, a deeper meaning to things in your life that feel more abstract, that feel more intuitively connected. You might even find yourself actually reordering things in your life that give you the space to breathe and give you the space to feel more, that you've included some meditation or introspection or some quiet time and stillness within your life. This is the potential from this transit. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when the transiting South Node is moving through the 7th house of the astrological chart, and the transiting North Node is moving through the 1st house. So if you've got this is going to be deeply impactful for you. So firstly, what's happening here is that this is a cycle where the old order is being let go of so that a new order can be established, a new way of being, a new pattern, a new perspective. And so for you, the transiting South Node in Virgo in the 7th house brings you into a examination of where you've outgrown certain relationship patterns that are either within yourself, where you've agreed to certain expectations and certain relationship patterns that you have with friends or with a partner or with work. You're becoming very aware of where you've outgrown these expectations, patterns, and agreements. Okay. And so the dependence on partnerships for recognition, to be seen, the stability, the external harmony, these are coming into play for you. Now, the North Node transiting your 1st house is going to initiate the dissolution process, okay? The sort of culmination, the need for these patterns to be let go of. And so for you, this is you're stepping into seeing yourself through these new eyes. You're stepping into taking up space and honoring yourself in a completely new way. So again, for most of us over the last year, we've done some incredible deep emotional transformation. We've reordered our lives. We've outgrown certain parts of ourselves. Well, this nodal shift is here to help you implement and apply and integrate this new version of yourself. So you'll notice that relationship, partnerships, and patterns, you're going to put up new boundaries. You're going to recognize that there are new ways of being. And so the dissolution process is helping you come into the connection of what you have grown into, right? The stronger version of yourself. And that will initiate the reordering of the old patterns, relationship stuff. Now, part of the dissolution process and the way that we might go through this, right, is just that the challenge is stepping into the individuality of yourself. The challenge is allowing yourself to recognize that you might have had certain dependencies or certain roles that you've played in the relationship, that because you're changing, that creates uncertainty and insecurities with your partnership or with other people. And you need to know that as you wander and embody this new version of yourself, that there are going to be some challenges around how the relationship gets restructured. Okay. And if it is a relationship that you're changing and you want in your life to stay, then vocalizing that you are in a state of reordering and negotiating the new partnership and the rules and the regulations and the expectations, and that's something that's being renewed. Okay. It's a renewal. So again, as I said, you've got to trust your individuality through the chaos and wandering phase. You've got to trust that you are embodying a new version of yourself, because it will then set you up for what will eventually become the new order in your life. And the new order will be reclaiming a deeper, meaningful sense of self, right? Rooted in the version that you've been working on for such a long period of time. So as I said, a new order of how you set up boundaries, a new order of what you consider to be fair and just in the relationship, And you might have actually let go of a lot of relationships that have become outdated for you. And that's good, right? You're gone in a new direction. So this is an incredibly powerful time for you to really see that if you've wanted to show up in your life and to take up space that is for you, this is the time. And to recognize that it does mean that some relationships might fade away and other relationships will go through a state of renewal that allows you to feel more that you are part of it too. Okay, so the transiting South Node in Virgo moving through your 8th house of your astrology chart, and the transiting North Node in Pisces moving through your 2nd house of your astrology chart. So again, this is a cycle of the fading away of a pre-existing order, and it is the embodiment and renewal of a new pattern, new way of being within your life. So for you, this pre-existing order will surface, right? The exposure of the pre-existing patterns and the pre-existing order will surface through the South Node in the 8th house. And so for you, this is like coming into contact with where you have outdated emotional patterns within yourself that you are deeply attached to, and how they are no longer serving you, how those emotional patterns are holding you back, how you might have a strong emphasis and dependency on those emotional attachments. So this is really going to test your feelings of security and safety within yourself. Because on one side, you are going to see, hey, you know, this emotional attachment I have to this situation or circumstance or job or relationship, I've actually outgrown that. And now I need to acknowledge that I've outgrown it so that the transformation can take place. And so that means, you know, really seeing where you might have your emotional safety and security in that circumstance or in that situation. And so you're becoming aware of where these patterns need to be purged. All right. Now, the dissolution process for you will be coming through the North Node in Pisces. That's in your 2nd house. And so the dissolution wants to show you, hey, it's time to release these fears of vulnerability, right? Releasing these fears of vulnerability that are attached to these underlying emotional enmeshments or emotional mergers that you have, right? So don't be surprised during this time that you find yourself recognizing that it's time to let go of some things within your world that are no longer benefiting you. And the North Node wants to say, hey, let's do this. And part of that is allowing yourself to say, hey, there is an emotional vulnerability associated with it, and there is there's over attachment to the external need, and I need to confront that, and I'm ready to let that go, right? That's the dissolution process. Now, the chaos stage or disordering stage and wandering stage that comes from this dissolution is one where you find yourself going, okay, well, now what is the new, right? What is the new pattern? What is the new perspective? And so you might find yourself struggling in redefining what are these new emotional patterns or these new emotional attachments. You might find yourself not feeling that sense of groundedness and reliance on those external attachments. And that's a natural process because you've let go, you've severed potentially these connections. But this is also giving you the opportunity to start recognizing that, hey, you've done an incredible amount of work over the last couple of years to see yourself in a completely new way. You know, you've challenged certain parts of yourself that you're ready to outgrow. You're stepping into a new version of yourself. And so you need to see that version of yourself needs space to be cultivated and to grow, right? And that's where the beauty of the new order comes in. You're cultivating a meaningful connection to new attachments and new relationship bonds that feel supportive to you, right? That feel nourishing to you, that feel emotionally caring for you. And part of that is allowing yourself to see that whatever it is that you're letting go of, that transition phase might feel a little bit strange or different, or what do I need to, where am I going now? But if we focus more on what it is that you know that you want to emerge with, that you want to attach to. Remember, this is a process of re-emerging and reattaching to things that actually align with your values and principles and purpose now, not things that were part of the past. So this is a pattern within your life right now of a restored sense of value and meaning through connecting to other resources and other patterns and other emotional connections that actually mimic and mirror that internal value state that you have within yourself. Okay, so let's take a look at the transiting South Node in Virgo moving through your 9th house and the transiting North Node moving through your 3rd house of your astrology charts, okay? So this is a cycle of renewal. This is a pattern that is going to transform you from seeing what patterns you have and letting them fade away so that a new pattern can emerge within your life. And so for you, this is going to be manifesting through the part of your life starting with the pre-existing order. Okay, so the transiting South Node moving through your 9th house is going to say, hey, you've done a lot of transformation in your life recently, right? You've outgrown certain parts of yourself, you've renewed, you've come into a new, stronger, clearer sense of principles, or, your values might have changed within your life. But now it's time to look at what pre-existing belief systems you hold about the world and about life and about yourself that are part of the past, right? That are outdated. And so here, this is really exploring and having your attachments to your belief systems and the structure of belief systems being exposed, okay? So, for us as human beings, we have a philosophical structure of the world. We have a certain set of beliefs about ourselves and about the world. And those belief systems, they influence the way that we actually experience things. You'd be surprised at how strong our belief systems actually inform our perspective and our experience. And so if we're having a certain belief system of, a feeling of an inadequacy, or we have a belief system that the world is an unsafe place because of certain experiences when we were young, you find yourself not maybe taking some risks in life to get ahead, or you might find yourself, not believing that you've got possibility and potential because, these underlying belief systems might cut you down. So you're really beginning to examine and see where there is a structure of set of beliefs that you hold about yourself, about the world, about life, that is maybe a little bit sort of closed down, or that is no longer part of your future self. But this belief system is still there saying, like, can you really do it, right? And it's just holding you back. So the sort of initiation of change comes through a dissolution. And this is the North Node in Pisces in the 9th house. In your 3rd house. And this is very much like letting go of the type of thinking and embracing more of a sort of flexible mindset or an intuitive mindset, okay? This is by questioning if these belief systems are holding you back, right? Question your belief system, expose your biases, expose your underlying attachments to why you might hold on to a certain truth, and really question them, right? And also open yourself up to new ways of thinking. Like, this is a great time to, read a book or listen to an audiobook or be in a state of curiosity and wonder as a way to open yourself up to new perspectives that could potentially initiate the challenge of some beliefs that you might hold about yourself that need to be transformed, right? And so, this is such a powerful transit when it comes to the way that you can revolutionize certain beliefs that are, that might not give you the potential and the empowerment for something that you dream about, right? This is a time for dreaming big within our lives, but we could potentially not believe in that or see that within our world if we hold a certain truth. So this is very much a kind of questioning and embracing and leading with curiosity. Like, I wonder, not like this is what I think, to, hey, I wonder why you think like that. I wonder why this person thinks like that. And it opens you up to seeing things more broader. Now, of course, when we start to dismantle our truth or our perspectives, we're going to be entering a state of disorder or meandering. And this is a natural state, right? This is nothing that's bad. It's just that the old order needs to sort of collapse and a new order needs to come out of it. And you're in the middle here, right? And so navigating the discomfort of questioning your established ideas or adopting new perspectives might feel uncomfortable. And again, try to move through this process. Try to allow yourself to see that by exposing yourself to the state of wandering and disorder, you're actually creating and holding the space for some new emergent patterns to come to the surface. And so for you, developing meaningful connections through curiosity and communication with people, reading books, challenging your belief systems, allowing yourself to learn something new. These are ways that you can cultivate and allow for the emergence of a new pattern to come within your life. Right, so if you've got the South Node transiting your 10th house, right, in the sign of Virgo, and the North Node transiting in Pisces in your 4th house, okay, so it's going to be for you. So the way that this pattern works, or the way that this energy is going to work, is that it's a process of the release of outdated patterns and then the emergence of a new pattern within ourselves. So the way that this is going to be initiated for you, having the South Node transit your 10th house, is that the pre-existing order for you will be focused around a few things, right? For instance, if you're somebody that has put a lot of emphasis on the way that you have defined your life direction, like what type of success you have tried to accomplish within your life, your certain ambitions, the goals that you've wanted to achieve, the type of career that you might have chosen, what is it that you do every single day of your life that when you look back, and I'm not talking about silly things like just like, your routine. I'm talking about the when you look at your future, when you look at your life, you say, well, what do I want to achieve or succeed at? Or what do I want to establish within my life and make concrete, right? This is going to come up for review for you. And of course, for you, you've been working over the last year and a half, even longer, on really reevaluating who you are and what it means to be yourself. And you've outgrown certain parts of your identity, and now you're seeing that this new version of yourself doesn't align with this pre-existing structure or order that you have had within your life up until now. And so that's what's going to come to the surface, is like, what's the structure? What's the container? What's the way in which I've established my life? Is it in alignment with who I am today or not? Right? So that discomfort, that growing discomfort of this feels like this container is closing me down. I don't feel meaning and purpose in my life, right? So this process of transformation is going to be initiated through a dissolution phase, right? And that's going to come through the activation of the North Node transiting your 4th house. So what you're going to notice here is that, this is the releasing. This is an activation of releasing the need for understanding that up until this point, your life has had a certain structure that has found meaning in, or you've done things a certain way, but that doesn't resonate with you anymore, right? You need to go through a process of accepting and coming to terms with the fact that you no longer resonate with this life direction, that you are ready to make a change, that you're ready to become emotionally invested in establishing an order in your life that's completely new. Okay? So if you can come into that space and allow yourself to emotionally connect with where you're at right now and see that there is a need for choices in your life to be made that releases old emotional attachments that were part of that pre-existing structure, you're on your way, right? Now, part of this process will lead you into a state of feeling disjointed or you're not like you're in a state of drifting or wandering for a period of time, right? It's natural because there's an old order that you are part of, and as you're transitioning into the new order, there is a phase where everything's up in the air. So the challenge here for you is sort of feeling like you might not have a clear sense of your priorities, or you might not have a clear sense of what the structure is about or how to go about it. You might notice that you're shifting your professional career, or that you're shifting life direction in a completely new way. And it's like starting something new can feel vulnerable, right? Whatever it is that space will be for you, I want to encourage you to understand that that's just because the new established structural order is not formed yet fully, and you're moving towards it and you're forming it. Over the next 18 months, you're going to be working on making that concrete and real within your life. So the new order that comes out of you shifting your emotional attention to the things that actually are real and meaningful, and the type of order that you want within your life, what type of structure you want within your life, what type of boundaries and definitions you want to hold within your life, right? When you shift into that space and you give more of the real emotional authenticity and resonance within yourself to that, whatever that might be for you, that's where the new order is going to come in. And you're building new meaningful structures. You're building new meaningful foundations. You're building new meaningful emotional connections to not only yourself, but to the way that you present yourself to the outside world. And that's where the renewal comes in. You're renewing your way of how you've defined yourself, how you've defined success, how you've defined what purpose is, what is something that you want to give your time to. You're defining that by renewing it, that is in alignment with where you are right now. So if the South Node's transiting your 11th house in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces is transiting your 5th house, this is going to be for you. So let's take a look at what's actually happening here, right? Firstly, this is a cycle of breakdown, wandering, and then renewal, right? That's what's going to be happening to you. So where the breakdown is going to initially start to surface for you, that will then eventually put you into a state of needing to move away from that, is going to happen in your 11th house. Okay, so the pre-existing order of how you have expressed yourself within the context of groups, within the context of friends, what types of collective efforts you've been a part of. You work for a company or a business, or whatever type of scenario or situation where a larger association of groups of people and friends, etc., that's the type of area and environment that's going to be under transformation for you. Now, you've been working quite a lot in the previous nodal cycle on understanding who you are, and you've outgrown a lot of patterns within yourself that feel that they no longer resonate with you, right? You've grown within yourself. And of course, that side of yourself needs to then become in alignment with a creative sense of expression. Like this is who you are, and this is how you're expressing yourself. So the pre-existing order of how you've defined yourself in friendships, how you've defined yourself within group organizations, etc., that's going to come up to the surface where you're going to need to see, hey, this is no longer resonating with me anymore. Okay. And so the North Node in Pisces is going to bring up the dissolution process, right? This how do we go through the letting go experience? And so for you, the dissolution is realizing that your self-expression, your creativity, your joy, your interests, your passions, if they align with groups of people and friendships, then you acknowledge that and you continue to keep, going in that direction. You keep those associations, those friends, those group dynamics part of you. But if you start to notice that there's a misalignment, you need to allow yourself or acknowledge, should I say, where there is a misalignment, right? That's the dissolution. It's the acceptance that there is a misalignment, that there is an outdated version of yourself that's still part of those group dynamics that don't resonate, and you're ready to let go. You're ready to dissolve. You're ready to drift away from. So you're really drifting away from sort of social roles, social expectations, friendships, group dynamics that no longer resonate with where you are creatively expressing yourself, right? Where you are wanting to be seen and what is exciting and joyful for you. Now, that process will set off a state of wandering, right? A feeling of drifting, and you're in in-between spaces. And this in-between space can be challenging because you might find yourself needing to work through the endings of certain, attachments or roles that you've played within group dynamics, or certain attachments that you've had within associations that you've been a part of. And as I said, friendships. This is about, finding that ability, that space of balancing your creative self-expression while at the same time, looking to see where you fit in, right? Where do you fit in? Just remember that if your North Node is transiting your 5th house, you're learning you're becoming more consciously aware of where you fit in through being seen. So where are you feeling seen and where you're not? this is the struggle, right? You're navigating through this phase. You might not know which types of friendships are actually resonant with you. But for the most part, I think you will. I think you'll be sort of aware of where you want to take your creative expression and what types of groups and friendships you want to belong to and what you don't want to. Now, the new order, the renewal process that comes out of this entire process of dissolution, right, where you're acknowledging and you're accepting where things have been outgrown, is that you're reclaiming your individuality, right? You're reclaiming it through understanding that there is a sense of resonance between friendships, between groups, between people that are like-minded, right? And there's a sense of authenticity that you can have. I mean, that's a big part of it. It's like the expression of authenticity and the ability to feel that you can be part of other groups of people who feel uplifting to you, right? That feel that you can express yourself and feel seen and belonging to, but are also championing your own ideas. Okay, so the transiting South Node in Virgo moving through your 12th house, and the transiting North Node in Pisces moving through your 6th house, okay? So this is an interesting pattern, and what's really going to be happening here for you is that the energy is about showing you and exposing where outdated patterns within your life no longer are working, and you're needing to let go of those patterns and transition into a state of renewal. So for you, the pre-existing order, right? You're going to come into this nodal shift, and you're going to have a certain way of being, right? So for you, there's a natural tendency to find yourself in a state of isolation. Escapism is fun because it means kind of dealing with the mystical and the magical world. It's an amazing place to be. Because it's so beautiful and uplifting, and the tragedies of the world are very far away. The struggles of the world are very far away. But here in this 12th house energy, solitude and kind of using spiritual practices as a way to navigate your life, these types of patterns you'll notice will come to the surface, and you're going to ask yourself, like, do these patterns still work for me, right? And you're going to say, like, yeah, no, some of these things don't work for me. Another part of this pattern as well is that, we've been working so much on really redefining ourselves, right, with the previous nodal axis in Libra and Aries. And so a large part of yourself has also worked on and changed, right? You've changed. You've grown out of old versions of yourself and into new versions of yourself. And so part of that means that you might also not resonate with certain habits and certain behaviorisms that are related to 12th house experiences, like escaping or staying in the shadows, or not necessarily wanting to engage in life in a way that feels real and earthbound, right? It's easier to stay in that space over there. So this is where you're looking at certain patterns that are not letting you get involved in life, right? You're here to get involved in life. So the dissolution process, right? The process of those outdated patterns being frayed away comes through the North Node in Virgo, or North Node in Pisces in your 6th house. And this might be initiated through a crisis, right? A set of crises where you're seeing, you need to acknowledge, and you need to know, and you need to accept that there are these outdated patterns that don't work for you anymore, right? This is the first step in allowing yourself to be transformed. So releasing patterns of potential avoidance, right? Releasing and embracing habits in your day that feel mundane or routine orientated, right? It's like, oh, okay, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. And then after a while, you're like, wow, this is really boring and unimaginative. And, it doesn't bring me anything that's colorful and creative. It's like just doing the same thing over. It's a good thing to have a period of your life where you explore having a certain routine, a certain habit that aligns with something more real for you. If you're wanting to manifest something within your world, if you're wanting to make something real and create something with your life and do something, this nodal effect, this North Node transiting your 6th house, is the time to make it happen. So firstly, what you want to do here is you want to see that in order for you to allow yourself to come into that new renewal, you have to first let go of and acknowledge what is in your way, what clutter is in your way, what patterns you are stopping you from achieving and living in a way that feels alive for you. So when you do that and you embrace more meaningful daily habits, you're going to come into the possibility and the potential for manifesting something within your world. Now, of course, part of this process of dissolution will create this in-between space between the old and the new that will feel like you're kind of drifting, or that you're not really clear on your purpose or your sense of direction. It's a natural phenomena. It's nothing wrong. It just means that you're in a transition phase, right? You're going from the old version of yourself and saying goodbye and saying that's it, and you're stepping into the new version of yourself by saying, hey, these are the ways, these are the habits, these are the choices that I'm going to make on my day-to-day life that feel aligned with something deeper and meaningful. Okay? But the challenge here is to sort of slip back into those more habitual habits of feeling, kind of disassociating into the magical wonder world of Pisces energy, which, to be fair, it's a great place to be in some cases, right? Escapism can be an incredibly healing experience, but if we overdo it, we're left disintegrating, right? We're disintegrating. So the new order that comes out of this North Node transiting your sixth house is about building a life where you're living through your routines and through your choices and through your habits that feel intuitively connected to your purpose, that guides you in a meaningful way, that gives you a stronger sense of actualization because you're grounding yourself and you're showing up every single day, that and being of service to that deeper meaning that you've always wanted to actualize, or that now you feel that you are wanting to actualize. Okay, so feeling with a state of lostness, drifting, is easily managed by seeing that there are certain patterns, certain choices within your life that you might be avoiding, coming into acknowledging what they are, stepping into establishing a routine within your life that feels like you're anchored on the earth. This is how you move into this North Node and Pisces energy. Okay. All right, guys, so I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check the description for our newsletter if you'd like to hear more of our articles, if you want to read our content. I do these videos, but we do written content and version of it as well, and you want to stay in contact with us, make sure that you join our newsletter. As I said, I'll leave the link in the description. Other than that, make sure to check out the Virgo-Pisces video if you haven't watched that one either. And until the next video, have an amazing day. Take care.